morning and welcome to Citizen Extra. I am Ann Kiguta. Our headline story this morning: NASA leaders are at the coast in a retreat that ought to deliver two results for them. The first, to ensure that the opposition coalition sticks together and goes into the election a united front, and second, that everyone walks away happy in a presidential lineup that will also see them win the next general election. And as always, our reporters are standing by to bring you news as it breaks. Sam Ogina is in Siaya and Stephen Leto in Bungoma. They are following preparations for party primaries that kick off this Thursday. We also have our Sam Gituku, who is standing by for us at a meeting of Education Secretary Fred Matiang'i with education stakeholders. We'll be getting details on that meeting live from Naivasha. But this hour, we've also got news and analysis on these and other stories that will shape this day. We want to start by taking a look at the day's diary. Well, 16 aspirants for various political seats under ODM will today appear before the party's disciplinary committee. That's over recent cases of campaign violence. Governors Okoth Obado, Hassan Joho and Sospita Ojamong of Migori, Mombasa and Busia respectively are on the list of those summoned by the committee to explain their involvement in the chaos. The list also includes Senators James Orengo, Anyang Nyong'o and Elizabeth Ngoro, as well as MPs Jeanette Mohammed, Polo Tuoma and TJ Kajwang. The hearings will kick off this hour and go late into the evening. Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta is today launching a platform where the public can see what the government has been doing and achieved so far. The portal will further give access to information that has not been privy to the public before. State House says through the site, the tiniest of details of the Jubilee administration's investments over the last 4 years can be traced. The event is taking place at the KICC Comesa grounds and is being attended by, among others, foreign dignitaries and development partners. Well, the Technical University of Kenya, which offers, among other things, training in aeronautic engineering, will today receive a 10-ton aircraft engine. The engine that powers some Boeing and Airbus models has been donated by Kenya Airways, General Electric and Boeing to ensure capacity building in aviation training schools. The donation includes aviation maintenance training books, training aids, reading materials, used aircraft parts and aircraft manuals. The presentation at the Technical University of Kenya will be presided over by Dr. Fred Matiang'i, the Cabinet Secretary for Education. But he's also attending another event this morning, and our reporter Sam Gituku is on the trail with him in Naivasha. Sam joins us now, telling us more about this morning's stakeholder meeting. Sam.
Morning to you, and as you said, yes, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has just walked in one of the hotels in Naivasha, where he's attending a meeting with the stakeholders in the university education. We understand that about 22 universities are represented here, and basically they are meeting the university council members from those institutions that have been recently appointed, rather they have taken those positions recently, and the idea here is to enable them get to understand what is expected of them. It's a sort of an induction process, an induction affair here, because they said that these council members have been appointed from different occupations, from different professions, so they have to be oriented on how they can be in a position to handle the university matters that are dealing with academics. So the meeting here, in as much as it's dealing with that, they're also getting to ensure that they're able to focus on the quality assurance standards. We understand that recently there have been issues in the university education sector, people saying that there is no proper quality as it were in the previous year. So the Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has been very categorical, indicating that some of the universities may have to close down some of the institutions, and actually some of the constituent colleges have been closed in recent months, basically going with the idea of having to ensure that there is quality provided or offered to the students who go to those institutions. And so this meeting here, meeting the council members, because these are the people who go ahead to employ the academic staff, the non-teaching staff, these are the people who are in charge of the procurement processes in the universities, and so the idea here is to enable them to be in a position to ensure there is quality, and also be in a position to ensure that the money that is allocated to those universities, as well as the revenue that has been generated in those universities, is implemented, or it's used in a prudent manner. And also we also understand that there has been issues with the matters to do with some of the constituent colleges, people saying that they need to be closed down, both in the country and also outside the country. And so this meeting is expected to address some of those issues, what the university councils can do, because it is within their mandate, alongside the university senate of the different universities, to be in a position to ensure those matters are taken care of in accordance with the University Act. So we'll be expecting to hear from the Cabinet Secretary what he has to say about the university education, and also from the stakeholders who are here to indicate really what are the challenges that they could be facing in as much as getting to ensure that quality is concerned. And we're also looking forward to hearing from the Cabinet Secretary. You remember that a few months ago, or rather a few weeks, I think that was in March, there was a committee that was formed between the Ministry of Education and the IEBC to be in a position to vet the candidates who are applying for different positions, so that to ensure that they have met the required minimum education requirements or rather qualifications. And so we'll be expecting to hear from him what is the progress that has been made as the country moves into the nominations later this week. So what have they been doing, and what have they found out, and what do they think needs to be done so as to ensure that the right candidates get to the ballot.
Sam, definitely the political question surrounding education has been, the forefront of everyone's mind. But I just want to take you back to education matters proper, and the fact that we've been talking about education reform in this country for a while now. And with this particular CS, we've seen a lot of action, when it comes to the quality of education. You've been on this beat for a while. What is it that was envisaged under education reforms? And in that vein, how is the CS performing?
Well, that's a good question, really to react on. And basically, talking about the education reforms, as the government, the Jubilee government, came through getting to ensure that they are in a position to look into the education sector and how the quality has been performing. You remember that there has been several challenges affecting both the basic education and also the advanced, or rather the higher education. So it has been sort of a mini crisis, if I may call it so, bearing in mind of the situations that happened in the year 2015 at the basic education level, that is at the primary school and also at the secondary school, getting to have a lot of cheating cases. But also that has been sort of dealt with if you are to use the basis of 2016 examination, or rather the examination cycle of 2016. So we have seen that, but also the Cabinet Secretary has been saying that that is not enough. They now need to move into the higher education level, that is the university education level, to ensure that the students who qualify, who graduate from the lower levels of Form 4, then they get to be served what is quality. But what has been ailing the sector, if you are to say so, is that there has been some sort of unregulated kind of entry, bearing in mind that students who do not qualify to join some of the to be enrolled in some of the courses have gained entry, bearing in mind that even the private universities, rather, some of them have been accused of getting to enroll without meeting the minimum requirement of a C+. So this is some of the things that the Education Cabinet Secretary has been looking at, of course, being met with a lot of opposition, bearing in mind that there are people who may have used their resources to get where they are, but also looking at the process. Can the education sector really get to apply the reforms that they are saying looking back, or should they then implement from now moving forward? But that is a question that, of course, awaits a lot of discussions, a lot of institutions to work around and see what really needs to be done.
Thanks very much, Sam Gituku, reporting for us this morning. We'll want to shift gears now from education matters to politics, and join me in studio is political analyst Vincent Kimosop, Dr. Caesar Mwangi, and Michael Lagwanda, who are both governance experts. Good morning, gentlemen, and I want to kick off with the NASA leaders retreat, which is still ongoing at the coast this morning. Vincent, I'll start with you. It is kind of down to the wire for NASA. We've heard them say that at the end of this month, a fresh deadline, at the end of this month, they'll have that presidential flag there. What considerations do you believe are going into what is being touted as a kind of crisis meeting?
Anne, thanks for having me. And then second is that, as you know, Anne, very well, the hottest political news in the country currently is who is going to be the flag bearer of NASA. I think, as you remember very well, that their magic bullet is their unity. And their unity, and also a combination that ensures that the victory is guaranteed. When you look at the developments in the past, there's been a lot of speculation that it's going to be Kalonzo, it's going to be Raila. Raila, but as you can see, the first among the four principles is Raila Odinga, and as in all that they need to do is how do they ensure that their traditional bases, here you're looking at Kalonzo and the Lower Eastern, you're looking at Wetangula, Mudavadi, and Western Kenya, and Raila has more or less the biggest national outlook in the ticket. So in view of all this, it is how do we keep together so that if we announce who are our candidates, knowing that we only have two positions, the one for president and the deputy president, that the constituencies represented by the other two will still be able to be excited and to turn out to actually come and vote. And as you look at Jubilee, because we have to look at NASA issues in view of what Jubilee is doing. Jubilee already has the basis consolidated. Somebody like Uhuru Kenyatta has a and actually no opposition in central Kenya, unlike what happened in 2013. Same to William Ruto. So you're dealing with two formidable candidates who have their basis solidified. And the opposition, their magic bullet is unity, and also the ability to stir up, it's called an act of aggression. The feeling that this is the only alternative that we have to have, and keeping those bases excited and balancing all those interests will always require time, and that's why we hear, oh, they're in this meeting, they are consulting. So those are part of political guerrilla dealing.
Michael, talk to me about balancing interests, especially when you know, there's so many players, the cake is only so large, and part of the agreements or sharing of power positions can only happen if the constitution is amended.
As it is today, just like Vincent has said, everybody's waiting for the presidential flag bearer of NASA. And we know for a fact that their unity is not only going to be the success of NASA, but it's also going to be a big competitor to the incumbency, that is the Jubilee government. As we look at things, there are four principles today, and those four principles must be in must be in agreement on who amongst them becomes the first. And remember, out of those four, just one person is going to be the presidential bearer. And secondly, is that the rest of them must also be able to accept to play some roles. I do not believe that any of them will be left without anything at hand, but for them to feel like they're part of the government that they're looking forward to convening, they will have to be given some responsibilities. It is true that the chief minister is not in the constitution today, but it could be a creation of the executive, which might not necessarily require the law being changed or reviewed for that matter. And so if they feel that one of them will be given the chief minister, I think that can be an agreement between them once they form the government. However, remember that for all of them to be part and parcel of this process, they must fail to have been promised something, and that which they are promised will be written down in an agreement, and when the government is formed, they will definitely be part of the system.
All right, let me come to Dr. Mwangi, because we saw some concern regarding a lineup that was leaked, and even concern showing among some of the principals. I believe ANC was out there making a statement saying that such leakages could affect the unity of the NASA coalition. Do you think that the revelations of proposed lineups would do any significant damage to NASA coalition talks at this point?
Yes, thank you very much. That's a good question, and I just want to take a step back and ask myself, or ask anybody who may be listening, what is the basis of this coalition? The basis of this coalition is to wrest power from Jubilee, and therefore they have tried as much as possible to bring the people who can garner sufficient votes in that regard. Now the question then we need to ask ourselves is that the people in this coalition, do they trust one another fully, or are there some cards that are under the table? And I suspect from what I see in the body language and in the words that are emanating from all the conversations is that there is no full level of trust. And I suggest that the reason there is no full level of trust is that there is domination of self-interest over national interest. Because of that, any issues of leakage cause a lot of discomfort among the people in that group. And it is not surprising because they are not unified by a very clear, bigger vision for the nation, but they are clearly seen to be driven more by wresting power from Jubilee and out of the rest of that power, see how best we can share the spoils of power.
But Dr. with all sincerity, I'm not sure which politician trusts another politician to begin with.
Yes.
And secondly, at the end of the day, politicians are all in it for personal interest first. It's like, I mean, to create the the sort of notion that there are those who have really demonstrated that they're laying down their lives for Kenya. It's hard to find an example in modern Kenya, don't you think?
Yeah. It is hard to find, but I keep saying that perhaps that's what we should be moving to, and therefore we should not write off that possibility. I keep saying that when we say politicians never trust one another, politicians never have the interest of the country, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's where we always end up in this vicious cycle of mistrust, and sometimes which ends up in some violence or some breakdown in the national fabric. I keep saying that we need to change the narrative. And that's what I'm saying.
You can talk about narrative, but we're also just talking about plain facts. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily what we love.
Yes.
But we're talking about reality.
What we see, the reality. Yes, the reality. But believe it or not, even if we don't look at this country alone, there are other countries for sure where politicians have an interest in the nation. And I'm probably saying that because we don't have that, any leakages that happen, and I think your main question was addressing the issue of leakages of the lineup, is leading to huge mistrust and to huge discomfort. I'm saying it's leading to discomfort because they are not unified.
Right.
And that is the reality, yes.
Hold that thought to Dr. We'll be back with him, Vincent, and Michael shortly. We just want to keep tabs on the other stories that we're following for you this morning and this hour. We want to take you to Bungoma now, I believe, where we have our Stephen Latori standing by. Remember, he was tracking for us. Stephen, you were following ODM party primaries that were supposed to take place at the weekend. Of course, this was postponed owing to the IEBC's insistence that they must first, publish these names, and then parties can go ahead and hold those nominations, which begins then this Thursday. How are politicians, receiving this sort of, delay, if you like, in terms of the kicking off of the nomination process, something which I suppose they'd envisioned would be done by now?
Indeed, good morning to you, Ann Kiguta, there in studio. We are in Kanduyi, one of the ODM hotspots here in Bungoma County. It is really that particular issue of suspension, or rather pushing forward of the nomination exercise for the Orange Democratic Movement here in Bungoma appears to have come as a relief for some of the politicians who are eyeing for key seats in this county, because they have had themselves an extra 7 days to campaign across the grassroots level to just marshal enough support to ensure that they clinch the party's ticket. And so after the party's National Elections Board chairperson Judith Pareno, alongside ODM leader Raila Odinga, announcing that they had heeded to the electoral body's advice, or rather demands, that no party primaries must be held before the 12th, or the gazettement of the names of all the aspirants. Then what then followed is there was a slow, or a low key of activities, political activities, because the Orange politicians who have been campaigning at that particular day in anticipation for the next day for the campaign, or rather for the nominations exercise, then had to take a little one step backwards, then re-strategizing an extra week. We managed to speak to some of them who are saying that spending an extra time here in Bungoma, for instance, means they have to spend an extra coin in their campaigns, and so they say that they had really exhausted what they had planned for this particular period of time, but then having that particular extension given to them then means they have to dig deeper into their pockets and just trying to marshal or make adequate logistics for their campaigns. But that notwithstanding, and there has been a lot of issues also, anxiety among the National Super Alliance supporters here over what was deemed yesterday as a make or break talks for the opposition. Just a lot of people speaking about it, saying that they really want to hear what the four principals have for their supporters and who will then fly the NASA presidential flag come the 8th of August. But on the other side, the Jubilee campaigns, the Jubilee politicians are also hitting the road. For instance, they were in Sirisia the other day, and today they're still traversing the border side of the constituency, trying to marshal their support base and putting or rather consolidating their support bases in Western Kenya. Remember, and Jubilee has made a lot of inroads here in Western Kenya, particularly even in Bungoma, where several of the members of parliament, from governor to several members of parliament, are on the Jubilee side, and that is what is making the race for various positions here in Bungoma very or a heated debacle here. And today they are also continuing their campaigns. We understand several MPs from the Jubilee side are sensitizing their supporters that the issue of the use of the smart cards during the nominations. Remember, the Jubilee party has also put their nominations exercises to be conducted on the 21st, and that is what is being prepared here. Guys here are really preparing for that particular day in terms of having the right candidates, trying to tell their supporters and all the aspirants that there will be free and fair nominations. But that notwithstanding, again, and the issue of the total or the giant in the room is the 560,000 registered voters here in Bungoma County, and who will take the bigger share of the Bungoma voters pie. And that is why today the Labour Party of Kenya party leader and Budalangi Member of Parliament Ababu Namwamba is expected to stage several roadshows here in Bungoma town, trying to unveil some of the aspirants for key positions here. But one of the tricky affairs for the National Super Alliance and here is the issue of a joint nominations was ruled out, and so the Orange Democratic Movement is fielding their candidates right from governor to MCAs. ANC, that is Musalia Mudavadi's Amani National Congress, and so is Moses Wetangula's Ford Kenya is also fielding candidates here. And so the National Super Alliance candidates from affiliate parties are first competing with their own selves and having also their opponents in the Jubilee side. That is likely to give the opponents in the Jubilee a walk in the park, because you see them having splitting the votes, the NASA votes, then gives their counterparts in Jubilee really a soft landing spot. And so those are the issues that continue to take shape here in Bungoma County. We are going to traverse several areas here, trying to place a spot check on each and every constituency to see how prepared the party offices are, both for the National Super Alliance and also from the Jubilee side. How prepared are they for this exercise? Remember, the ODM nominations are kicking off on Thursday here in Bungoma County, and so those are the key activities that we are continuing to keep an eye. It's one of the hotspots, just like the neighboring county of Busia, where there were reported several cases of violence. But here we are told that security has been beefed up following that incident in Busia, and so they are saying that they are manning each and every politician. They are manning each and every activity of each and every politician here in the county to ensure that there are no excitement whatsoever, to ensure that the process is free, fair, and devoid of violence. And so on, we'll be keeping you up to speed with several activities from Bungoma County, Webuye West, Webuye East, Mumias, and also here in Kandui, when you require us to do so. But for now, I hand you back, but we'll continue to keep you up to check on what is happening on this end of the town. Back to you, Anne.
Thanks very much. Stephen Leto reporting for us. And of course, we're going to stay on top of the campaign trail in as far as nominations are concerned throughout Citizen Extra. But first, we want to follow up for you a story that broke this morning. A Kenyan suspected drug baron has been deported from Madagascar to face trial here in Kenya. Bilal Kimali arrived at JKIA under tight security this morning. He is suspected to be among individuals who were behind a drug shipment that was blown up at sea last year by Kenyan authorities. The suspect has been on the run before he was apprehended in Madagascar. Hassan Mugambi is at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and now joins us live with an update on this report. Hassan.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. Back at the studio, we are just outside the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport courtroom, where we are waiting for the suspect, who is Ndechumia Bilali Kimali, to be arraigned before the magistrate here, so that we can see now what is going to be forged forward in as far as the litigation process for the suspect, who is believed to have been on the run since April of 2015. Remember, he is being arrested being held by the police in regards to that baby Iris. I remember the yacht, the British-owned yacht, which was blown up after being intercepted by the Marine, the Kenya Marine, in the coast of Mombasa, after being nabbed with 7.6 kilos of heroin inside. 6 people were arrested then, and then again they were presented before court, but one of them was constantly reported to have taken off. That one is the one that was arrested yesterday in Madagascar, and this morning we witnessed him being handed over to the Kenyan authorities here at the JKIA, and he is now set for trial, which is going to begin in a few minutes' time. But I have had an exchange with some of the detectives who are actually handling the matter, and the lead detective just said that what they are going to ask for here before the court today is not for Kimali to take a plea, but then again, all they want is that the court to grant them more time to hold the suspect, so that investigations can be concluded before they present a solid case back in the court, saying that expressing fears that if at all they continue to take a plea today, they might just present before the magistrate a very, very feeble case that might not go very far. So they are going to be asking for more time for them to conclude investigations linking him to that particular baby Iris yacht that was blown up in 2015 back at the coast of Mombasa, and on the glaring of full glares of cameras and all. And then again, the 5 suspects are actually in a court process that has protracted since that time up to now on.
Thanks very much, Hassan Mugambi, on top of that story for us. We'll catch up with him later for details on the same. We want to return to politics now, and of course we're taking a look at the NASA Leaders Coalition, retreat that's taking place at the coast with my analysts Vincent Kimosop, Dr. Caesar Mwangi, and Michael Agwanda. We left off, gentlemen, we were talking about the impact of the licked list in as far as the holding together of this coalition. Let me come to you, Vincent. Do you believe reports, at least it has been rumored, that part of the fears among the NASA principals is the fact that Jubilee could have infiltrated that sort of top-level organ that was basically drafting the report, and even perhaps influenced its findings? Is that something that you think is possible given the lineup that we saw? Politics is about the fight for interest and power, and one of the ways that you do it by dominating others. So there might not be any evidence of Jubilee's hand in all this, but you cannot rule it out, because, for example, the Jubilee needs to know who of the 4 will be the person they want to face. So they want to influence the process and also ensure that they have weak candidates come elections in August
the 8th. So I'm not saying that there is concrete evidence, but from an analytical perspective, if you connect the dots backwards, you cannot rule out their influence, their spin. If you look at the headlines for the last 2 weeks, they've actually, the focus has been who is the candidate, are they united, they're going on a retreat. Now, why is that? So that this candidate comes out as soon as possible. Now, if you also look at it, if for example the 4 candidates are not united by what Dr. Mwangi said, that maybe national interest, so there is even a possibility of a fallout. So by them pushing the announcement of the candidate to possibly near the election date, it's actually ensuring that if anyone is to bolt out, then they don't have enough time to do a lot of damage. And
but let me hold that thought, Vincent. Can the reverse not also be said to be true, that NASA would equally have interest in leaking their own document, to the extent that you want to see public reaction to the lineup? You want to know if there will be, this sort of furore against it, or, whether it will be celebrated. Now, the challenge with that is that you don't, there is a proverb in Africa that says that still waters run deep, and when you want to test the depth of still waters, you don't do it with your 2 feet. So my understanding is that NASA would also be, as in the strategists of NASA would also be accommodative of such realities, because you can leak lists. Remember, if you look, for example, the announcement of the officially or the constitutionally recognized person as the leader of the opposition, and that is Francis Nyenze. He said it on actually the precincts of Parliament, that if it is not Kalonzo, we Kambas, just to quote him, are out of NASA. Just telling you very clearly the kind of pressure. And as you remember very well, you've been following in the media, there is no time that Kalonzo has contradicted, for example, what Nyenze has said. And you look at the impact of that pressure to even to their representative in the coordination committee, that is Mudhama, saying that I'm facing a lot of heat. So here you look at a candidate like Kalonzo, he has to represent and demonstrate interest. He's already built and consolidated his base. For the first time in the political arena, you have Charity Ngilu, Wavinya Ndeti, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, just with the exception of Dr. Alfred Mutua, who then, they are not supporting Kalonzo. He's consolidated his base, telling me very clearly that it is either the presidency, and even the announcement was the #1 candidate is Kalonzo, Kalonzo, Kalonzo. So with all those pressure, if you leak a document that is confidential and it does more damage than all the investment and the time that you've taken in building a strong and a formidable opposition goes to waste. Remember, Anne, that for the first time since, if you look at the history of our opposition, since maybe even 1992, for opposition leaders to stay together for a period of 5 years, even with all the challenges, the overtures from the establishment, they've remained united. That is something that actually CORD has to their credit. So there are things, for example, if you do leakage intentionally, it can work to the... It can backfire.
Yes.
Point made. Michael, so that lineup, Raila, Kalonzo, is that the winning formula?
One thing that I say is that for the principals to stay united simply means a huge win for NASA. If they are divided, they may not be able to achieve their objective. And for that reason, I will say that most rhetorics out there are on individual principles, and they're bringing out their weaknesses and their strengths so the public can see them, so that they can water down the possibility of winning the election. And all these rhetorics are definitely a strategy from the government, as well as the people that just have self-interest within the NASA itself. I have said this before, that as NASA stands today, the unity, if it continues, they have a huge chance of making the next government. I say this because when you look at Raila and the constituency that he holds, the people that is able to reach in the entire nation, he is a credible candidate and a presidential flag bearer that is undisputed. And when you look at history, Raila has won certain elections that were robbed from him, and therefore the narrative that he is the presidential flag bearer, then he may not necessarily win the election, is not true, because history has told us that people can give Raila votes. When you look at Kalonzo, And when people say, oh, if Kalonzo is the deputy president, then the Kambas are definitely not going to vote for him. Well, I don't know if the Kambas have, another party to run to. As it is, I know that Jubilee has infiltrated into their leadership. A lot of their MPs have, come to Jubilee, but that does not mean that the Kambas don't have faith in the person of Kalonzo Musyoka. And therefore, for you to say that perhaps if Kalonzo Musyoka is the deputy governor, the deputy president, then the Kambas may not vote is null and void in my view.
All right, so you believe it is a winning formula if they